Welcome back, Nets fans. I was not planning on making a video tonight, but this was probably one of my most favorite wins of the year. Maybe this one and like the Toronto one on that Sunday. There was another good one in there at some point. Maybe the Hawks one. But yeah, this was a great team win, honestly. Kevin Durant was out with the shoulder strain. Hopefully he's okay. But this was a great team win by Brooklyn, I must say. Of course, we knew going into it a lot was going to be on James Harden's plate, and that's just the way it was going to be. But the ways some other guys that we did not expect to contribute did contribute makes it even better. And the way they really turned up their defensive intensity, especially in the second half, late second quarter, we started to see it, but the second half especially, guys like James Johnson came out of nowhere, had a really good game. Guys like DeAndre Bembry, who filled in for Kevin Durant in the starting lineup, he had a good game. Even Javon Carter was fine. Even LaMarcus Aldridge, who, yes, has been really good all year, but LaMarcus Aldridge was awesome in this game, especially down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Of course, Patty Mills put up 22 points himself. He was great, had a really big run in the second quarter by himself and the third quarter, I believe. So, this game without Kevin Durant, without Joe Harris, and Bruce Brown left in the second quarter with hamstring tightness. Hopefully he's okay as well. But, this was a Nets team that was pretty undermanned and did not really expect to not have Bruce Brown as well. And they were down 19 points at one point. And it was the second quarter, and the Nets were consistently down 15, 17, even 19, as I said. And it just felt like one of those games where they didn't have Kevin Durant, and the Magic were going to come in here into Barclays and get a win. It did not feel like the Nets were going to come back in this game. But then late in the second quarter, things started to turn. The Nets kind of cut it to, I think, 9 points at halftime or something like that. And they came out in the third quarter, had a big run. They got the game tied. And since then, it was just pretty much back and forth. But the Nets had the final say and got themselves this win to improve to 12-5, which, by the way, 12-5 is the best start in franchise history for the Nets through 17 games. Their other best start was the first year of Brooklyn back in 2012, 2013. But I mean, seriously, where did this James Johnson performance even come from? This guy had no role on this team. I feel like he played in 3 games the entire season, and he comes out here and has a stat line of 25 minutes played, 17 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 of 11 from the field. I mean, that's awesome. He had like 5 fouls too, but still, he was awesome all night. And I mean, this is not going to consistently happen for James Johnson, but just knowing in the back of our minds that, hey, if Kevin Durant's ever resting in the future or is out due to injury for maybe a game or two, at least James Johnson's going to come in here, hopefully, and be, I don't know, half of Kevin Durant. We can only hope, right? I know this is maybe a one-time thing and whatnot, but James Johnson was great, I have to say. Blake Griffin, I mean, I wasn't really a fan of him shooting once again. He missed a 3 in this one. He, I think, missed another jump shot from the free throw line pretty badly. He's for some reason can't shoot the ball right now. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if he's getting his legs under him or what, but I don't know. So far, Blake Griffin can't shoot the ball very well, and hopefully that changes. But, defensively, Blake Griffin was fine. He was switched on to Cole Anthony sometimes. That was a little difficult, but I feel like he kind of held his own as compared to Steph Curry the other night. And Blake Griffin had a couple of nice finishes, had that awesome play where he catches the ball at the right elbow, fakes a pass, Mo Bamba falls for it, goes to the corner, and he just dunks it. Also had an and one, I believe, at some point in this game. So, yeah, Blake Griffin, he was fine. I mean, I do expect better shooting-wise, but he was fine. Patty Mills, of course, had the great third quarter and was shooting the ball very well in this game. His percentages were 9 for 13 from the field and 4 of 8 from 3. So Patty Mills was great in this one, kind of playing that Joe Harris role, and probably played it better than Joe Harris would have anyway. So, I mean, Patty Mills was awesome, and he was definitely a good ball handler in this game. Made a couple of nice 2-point shots from, about 5 feet in from the 3-point line. So, yeah, Patty Mills played a big role in this game. He doesn't do the most on defense, but definitely gives a lot of effort. And his ball handling, though, definitely helps this offense a lot and took some pressure off James Harden as well. Now, speaking of James Harden, he did shoot 7 of 25, but he did shoot 20 free throws. That's like the big part of it. So James Harden, I think, in the past 4 games has shot 10-plus free throws. That's good to see that James Harden's finally getting back to that old style of basketball that he's used to playing. He had one play in this game where I think he tried one of those like rip moves and they called an offensive foul. And there was one later where they called a charge on him, but Steve Nash challenged that play. It was overturned. So, I mean, yeah, he was doing a good job of being aggressive all night, though. He did miss some pretty easy layups that he usually makes. He had one that was rejected by Mo Bamba on a nice play by him, but I think for the most part, James Harden did what he had to do. He had to be aggressive. He had to put up 3-point shots. His 3-point percentage in this game was 3 for 13, which is horrible. I get that. But he also had a 4-point play. He also went to the line on a 3-point shot. Like, James Harden did enough. It wasn't a perfect night based on the efficiency, and I feel like he had some turnovers in this game. He had 6 turnovers in this one, but the fact that he was rebounding and assisting the way he was, I remember James Johnson blew an assist he had, then James Johnson rebounded it and put it in anyway, but still. James Harden, I feel like, had a pretty good night for the most part. Yes, it was a bad shooting night, but when you get 20 free throws and make 19 of them, that's pretty damn good. And the broadcast said, I think Harden made 43 of his past 44 free throws up until that point. So, I mean, he was just on fire from the line. And LaMarcus Aldridge, I gotta say, I don't know, like, the Nets broadcast has said this, and I totally agree. Where would this Nets team be without LaMarcus Aldridge? Like, right now, they're a 12-win team. Do they even have 9 wins without Aldridge right now? Like, I don't even think so. I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge has been huge in so many different games. I think back to that Sixers game, the second game of the year. He was the reason they came back. Tonight, he played 23 minutes, had a monster second half, 15 points, 7 for 16 from the field, and made his only free throw in the game. So, he was awesome, and he had that situation in the fourth quarter where it was him versus Mo Wagner, and he just kept going in the post and, you know, took advantage of that matchup, had the great and one, took a lot of strength to finish that one. He was doing this, like, you're too small for me celebration. It was great. So LaMarcus Aldridge had that same face on the entire time, just like that same look on his face, but he still just, I don't know, found a way to keep scoring, and he was like that go-to guy at some points. Basically, the Nets offense, the final 3 minutes, was trying to go in the low post to LaMarcus Aldridge, but someone from the Magic defense, they kept leaving Bembry open because he's not the best shooter, and they were kind of double teaming LaMarcus, and then it resulted in James Harden step back threes that were not going in. But when LaMarcus Aldridge got the ball in the final 3 minutes, I feel like he was 3 for 3 in the final 3 minutes. So he was a very key contributor to this game, to this win, I should say. And I'm just very happy he's back. If he was not on this team, I just don't know where we'd be right now, because not many guys are going to fill in for LaMarcus Aldridge and play that same role. It's not like Kevin Love would have been a net or something. Like, I don't know. It's not like Kevin Love plays the same style anyway, so I don't know where I'm going with that. But yeah, just happy LaMarcus is here, and he's been a big contributor to this team so far. For Javon Carter, I mean, he was good on defense, I think, for the most part. The Nets were doing a lot of switching in this game, and as I said, their defensive intensity really picked up in the second half, and Javon Carter was a big part of that. See, I like the Nets lineup when they had Carter and James Johnson and Bembry, because every time they were switching, it didn't matter, because those guys can defend multiple positions. It really didn't matter if a quick ball handler was on James Johnson or on Bembry or on Javon Carter. The Nets were fine defensively. I mean, James Harden on defense looked awful at some points, I have to say, and LaMarcus Aldridge doesn't move too well. The Nets, the refs did miss that one call where LaMarcus Aldridge goaltended that Cole Anthony layup, and they didn't call it, thank God. But yeah, I mean, whatever. But I mean, the officiating was terrible all night. They literally spent like 3 minutes at one point going over how many fouls each team had. It was a very just like unorganized game for the officials, but I feel like I complain about that every time I do the Nets videos anyway. So Javon Carter was 2 of 6 from 3, but I feel like when he made those threes, they were like in big situations where the Magic were starting to pull away again, and then he would bring them back by making a 3-pointer, like, and cut it to a 10-point game or cut it to a 7-point game. I feel like, you know, Javon Carter he's not the best shooter. I think we know that by now, but what he can do on defense and even handling the ball, he's going to have a role on this team. And if Kyrie Irving, if and when he ever comes back, will Javon Carter still have a role on this team? Maybe, because I feel like the Nets might have to pick between him and Bembry, and I think Bembry's winning that battle right now. But based on how things are going and guys are now starting to get injured, I just don't really see a scenario where Javon Carter is leaving the rotation anytime soon, and I don't know if Kyrie Irving's ever coming back at this point, so you kind of just have to live with that. But, you know, speaking of the whole Kyrie thing, I guess people do want us to talk about it, you know, us being like Nets content creators. I mean, I'm not really feeling confident about Kyrie coming back anytime soon, honestly. I'm kind of just going about this the rest of the season. Like, I think the Nets don't have to make any drastic decisions until the trade deadline. Once the trade deadline comes, because remember, I think Kyrie, this is the last year of his contract, I believe, or maybe there's 2 years left, I forget. But okay, I looked it up. Kyrie has a player option for next year as well, which I would think he would take because that's $36 million on the table. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, it could be treated like this is his last year technically. I don't really know how the Nets want to look at it, but the Nets will be in a situation, honestly, I didn't want to get into all this, but they will be in a situation near the trade deadline, which is like February 20-something. I don't know. We're still a few months away, obviously. But the Nets will be in a situation where if Kyrie Irving is still not back by February and he is showing no signs of even changing his mind or budging at all, I think the Nets may have to be in a situation where they have to trade him. And I always try to be level-headed and like just rational with my takes about any of my sports teams, whether it's the Yankees, the Nets, the Giants. But this is a situation where Kyrie Irving may have to be traded if he does not want to come back. And it's sad because I love Kyrie. I got a picture of him on my wall right here next to Darren Williams and Saquon Barkley, funny enough. But, I love Kyrie, but if he's not going to come back and help this team, compete for a title run in April and June and July, whenever the hell the finals ends, then how can you really keep him? I don't really know. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, but I just don't think Kyrie is definitely going to be on this roster the entire season. I do hope he comes back. I hope Kyrie next week just gets vaccinated and says, all right, I'm back, let's go. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So we got to be realistic about it. I'm not going to talk about like who he should be traded to and whatnot. I have no idea. Maybe that's a future video. But anyway, back to this game. It was an awesome win. I know the Magic are like they were 4-11 coming into this game, but I feel like they've been playing teams very, very tough lately. So, guys like Terrence Ross and Jalen Suggs were hitting every freaking shot in the first quarter. It literally, like, every shot they were taking was going in the first half, and it was like, is this going to be one of those nights? Like, Terrence Ross has had his share of great nights at the Barclays Center, but, for the Magic, I mean, guys like even Cole Anthony had a pretty nice game, but Suggs and Wagner, of course, played pretty well. So I don't know. This is the first time I actually watched Franz Wagner for an entire game, and I was pretty impressed. Like, he is a very, like, what's the word? It's just very, like, feisty player. I was not expecting that. I don't know. I feel like like, his brother, I feel like, is more timid. I could be wrong. I didn't watch every Mo Wagner game at Michigan and whatnot, but I don't know. I was impressed by him. I will say that. But yeah, I mean, look, we give Steve Nash a lot of crap, and rightfully so, because this is a talented roster and whatnot, but having the injuries they had tonight and the guys out, once again, no Kyrie, no KD, no Joe Harris, no Bruce Brown for a half, and still like making the adjustments they did. And really the biggest adjustment for the Nets was just playing better defense. Like, I don't know if that was coached into them or what, but for some reason the Nets just played noticeably better defense from like the middle of the second quarter onwards, and they were just a lot better at switching and just getting in guys' faces, guys who had the ball. The rotations were awesome. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's like an entire Steve Nash thing and whatnot, but I think the Nets defense was great in the second half, and that kind of is credited to coaching sometimes, so I will give him his credit there. I still wish Steve Nash was a little better in some areas, but he did win his challenge tonight too, so I don't know. Steve Nash is off the hook for tonight, but they just play a lot better defense in the second half, and I was impressed, honestly. Now, for the Nets' upcoming schedule, which I like to end on most times doing these videos, so I'll go over like the next 4 or 5 games here. So they're at Cleveland on Monday night. I feel like Cleveland, what have they been up to this year? Are they a good team or not? I mean, they are 9-8 right now, but I feel like they've been without Jared Allen and the other center, Mobley, for a little bit now. So, I feel like the Cavs might be at full strength now. We'll see what happens with the injury reports on Monday. So the Nets do have a few days off here, though. So this is today's Friday. So they have the entire weekend off, then they're at Cleveland Monday. They're at Boston on Wednesday. The Celtics have been very inconsistent. They did beat the Lakers tonight, but a very inconsistent team. Jaylen Brown's still been out with his hamstring issue. Then the Nets get the Suns at home here. So Saturday, 7:30 game against the Suns. That's a big one, of course. Then, of course, the Knicks. The Knicks game is on Tuesday, November 30th, 7:30 game, and then they're off till Friday. So we'll pretty much end it there. So Cavaliers, Celtics, Suns, Knicks coming up here. It's a pretty tough schedule. I mean, I think all these teams are above 500. I'm pretty sure. So I know the Suns are, obviously, but I feel like most of these teams are. The Celtics in front of me, they are 7-8. Maybe they're 8-8 now. Cavs are 9-8. Obviously, the Suns are great, and the Knicks are 8-7. So yeah, this is gonna be a tough stretch here. I will say. I think maybe I'll sign up for 2-2. As bad as that is, but I think 3-1's possible. I'm gonna go with that. Obviously, you want 4-0 as a fan, but I always try to be have realistic expectations. And if they can escape this little area of a tough schedule, going 2-2, like beating the Suns is no guarantee. And I feel like they may lose one of the Cavaliers or Celtics games. The Knicks one, I mean, the Knicks are always going to be a tough matchup for the Nets because the Nets are more of a finesse team, and the Knicks always play tough on defense. So it's not the best matchup, but the Nets should be favored in that game and hopefully do win. But 2-2 at worst, please, and hopefully 3-1, 4-0 is what we get. So anyway, that should do it. I don't know if there's anything else to talk about with this game from tonight. Pretty much, I was just very impressed with Aldridge and James Johnson, especially. James Harden did what he did in Houston for the most part. Just wasn't very efficient, obviously. But, James Harden, I don't know if he's back to that old James Harden, but we're getting there. I hope he improves as the year goes on because the Nets getting the real James Harden. I know he's still like 32 years old. He's not that old, but James Harden has not really been in the best physical shape the past couple of years. I will say he's noticeably a bit more thick than the past couple of years than he was on Houston. So I do hope he's getting better, though. I don't think this is like the best we'll see James Harden all year, but hopefully things do get better for him as the year goes on. And he still is recovering from the hamstring issue. It was a short off season, so maybe that's still part of the problem. And for Kevin Durant, I mean, look, if he has to take a month off to get 100%, it is what it is. I mean, I don't want to have a situation where this shoulder injury, I think it's his right shoulder too, so it's a shooting shoulder. I don't want a situation where this is nagging him the entire year. So if he has to take off a necessary amount of time, then it is what it is. I hate it because watching Kevin Durant is a privilege every night, but still I want the guy 100%. That's the main priority here, of course. This is a team playing for the playoffs, not playing for game number 16, 17, 18 in the regular season, so I'm sure everyone understands that. So anyway, that will do it. I'm still working on making the Nets podcast because, as I said, I want to get these videos on a podcast platform at some point, and I'll be working on that. So it will probably be called MTN Nets Podcast. It's simple. So I'll make that in the future. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. 12-5 feels good. We have not really beat many great teams this year, but hopefully we do. We play the Suns coming up, so that's a big game for us at home. So we'll see. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.